I'm coming for you. Time to feed. Many moons had passed since the day the Umbrum were born. The male Umbrum, that would be given the name Howling Mountain, and the female, who wouldn't be named for quite some time, traveled together in search of the only source of food for them: fear. The third Umbrum, who was physically injured by the unicorn filly's light blast, was never found by the other two. Not that they really went looking for the injured one. Hunger and rage were all the Umbrum knew. That, and how to install fear in the hearts of others so they could feed. Much like their creator, the Umbrum found they could channel their energy into their bodies, concentrated, and blasted in bursts of black and purple bubbling magic from their eyes, mouths, and in the female's case, her horn. Their spells, if they hit their mark, would cause a creature to see hallucinations specific to that creature's worst fears. Leave the creature weak, helpless, and their fear ripe for the picking to the Umbrum. An easy meal. The Umbrum found they grew stronger with every meal they consumed. Traveling together, the Umbrum ventured around the world, spreading fear to every creature they met. Dragons, griffins, yaks, sea serpents. It didn't matter. They all became prey to the Umbrum. But the Umbrum never forgot. The most delicious meal they had was that of the pony tribe that they only tasted before being cast away. The thought of their meal that got away, the richness of that fear was unlike any other they had since. But the Umbrum knew it was too risky to try and feed off ponies, lest they end up like the missing third Umbrum. The female Umbrum was cunning, though, and was always watching, observing the world around her, trying to find a way to get the upper hoof so she might enjoy a pony feast. Many years passed, and the creatures of the primal world became intelligent. Or at least more than they had been when the Umbrum first walked the world. The dragons made claim to their own lands of fire rock. The hippogriffs nested atop a mountain to the south. The griffins to the east, yaks to the northwest, and ponies seemed to make the mainland home. The Umbrum never needed a place to call their own. It was only the two of them, and their diet required them to travel. They could never stay in one place and receive the necessary amount of food. After leaving a yak village, having fed upon the proud but still frightened yaks, the two Umbrum found themselves in a forest of crystals. Most of the crystals were as tall as trees, reaching to the sky, and all of different shades of blues, greens, and purples. But one group of crystals caught the female's eye. A group of black crystals, more jagged than the others, lay in the center of this rock jungle. They seemed to call out to the Umbrum, summoning them to stand in the center of them. As the two Umbrum obeyed the silent message, the dark crystals began to glow, feeling the energies given off by the two Umbrum. The Umbrum didn't know it, but the dark crystal anomaly that had been waiting for them required both of them present. An idea popped into the female's head to focus her magic into the crystals around her. But as she did, the Howling Mountain did the same. The crystals took all their magic in and began glowing, bubbling with the dark magic they had become infused with. Moments later, after the two Umbrum used up all their magical energy, something stirred inside the crystals. The couple watched as a shadowy creature like themselves emerged from the reflective side of the dark crystal. It was an Umbrum, not unlike them, a creature that walked on 4 hooves, a flowing smoke-like mane and tail. But unlike its parents, this Umbrum had wings on its back, not feathery like a bird or insect-like, but wings nonetheless. As it emerged, it snapped at the couple. The couple growled at it and let the youngling know where it stood. The youngling lowered its head in respect and looked around as others were born the same way. All around the Umbrum couple, smaller Umbrum began to emerge from the dark crystals. Some had wings like their first youngling, some with horns like the female Umbrum, some with neither like the Howling Mountain. By the end of the emerging, there were now 36 or so Umbrum plus the original couple. The couple chuckled in delight. Now they had numbers and could go and feed on the delicious fear of ponies without their fear of the light. The Umbrum then set forth like a storm, spreading fear across the land of ponies, consuming every last bit of the ponies' fear and growing stronger than ever. Not even the magical ponies with light-creating horns could stop them now. For many moons, the Umbrum rode free across the land of ponies. One day, when the Umbrum had ventured back to the forest of crystal, they were approached by a cloaked pony, one who bore the mark of the sun and stars on her cloak. A unicorn mare, taller than most ponies. She warned the Umbrum that if they continued to torment ponies as they did, she would have no choice but to lock them away. Although the Umbrum's own intelligence had caught up with their no longer primal world and could understand the warning of the tall unicorn, they didn't care to listen. They chuckled as they leapt at her, planning on filling her with fear and draining every last drop out of her. But the cloaked unicorn mare was prepared for this. She flipped her cloak off of her body, revealing 3 stones that glowed and hovered around her. The stones put up a barrier that stopped the Umbrum from ever reaching her. Reluctantly, the unicorn cast a spell that sealed the Umbrum away, deep, deep underground, imprisoned for all time. The only hope of escape the shadow creatures had would be if some creature foolishly released them with the power of the unicorn's cornerstones that were used for the seal. Much time had passed, long enough for the land above the Umbrum to turn to ice and snow. The crystal forest harvested by the ponies to build their own empire. Time and time again, the Umbrum fought against their underground imprisonment, and little by little they began to chip away at the imperfect seal, until the Umbrum finally broke free. They saw the world around them was cold and dark, but not far from their prison was a crystal paradise, with ponies whose hearts didn't know such fear, but they would. The Umbrum ravished the land of crystal, feeding off the ponies, making up for the years spent sealed away, until another tall unicorn mare stepped forward. She wasn't so kind to the Umbrum as to offer them mercy. They offered none to her little ponies. Why should she offer to them? The tall unicorn mare levitated a large crystal in the shape of a heart overhead and focused her magic into it. The light from the crystal heart not only pushed back the Umbrum, but sent them back to their prison. The tall unicorn followed the trail of the Umbrum, using the combined efforts of the 3 legendary cornerstones of her ancestor, with her own crystal heart. The tall unicorn resealed the Umbrum away. Many more moons had passed, and every 12th moon the seal to the Umbrum's prison was re-strengthened by the magic channeled through the crystal heart. The ponies had learned that by channeling their own magic through the heart, that they could re-strengthen the seal on the Umbrum's prison. If nothing changed, if the heart remained where it was, and the ponies continued to fill it with magic, the Umbrum's fate was sealed. Some Umbrum settled down in their underground prison, making homes for themselves like the creatures above ground who were free. Some Umbrum practiced magic in hopes to break their seal. Some Umbrum even found dark crystals in their underground prison, and mimicking their creators, utilized them to create families for themselves. The original female Umbrum and the Howling Mountain themselves made one more Umbrum youngling, a small, weak little thing that had never tasted fear. Seeing his young son in so desperate need for food, Howling Mountain made an attempt to break free. He knew that if he could get loose, he could gather those stones that sealed his kin and release them back onto the world. With the help of his horned children, the Howling Mountain was able to travel out of their prison through red crystals that made them reach the surface. But that was the last time the Umbrum ever heard from the Howling Mountain. Many more moons passed, and the Umbrum learned to survive on each other's rage as a poor substitute for delicious fear. But the original female Umbrum hated surviving like cannibals. The female Umbrum knew the crystals used to send her husband to the surface were weak, and she would never be able to press forward herself as he did. But another, smaller Umbrum could if it took another form. The female told her other younglings of her proposal. Turning to her weakly son, she and the others gathered together and blasted the smallest youngling with their dark magic, painfully forcing him to take the form of a pony and pushing him through the red exit crystal. The female was able to watch through the red crystal as Pony spotted her newly transformed son and carried him away. All the Umbrum could do was wait. It wasn't many years after that the female saw some pony approach their crystal from the snowy distance. The tall unicorn spoke to them through the crystal, claiming to have befriended Howling Mountain and seen the youngling they called Sombra grow and develop into a promising adult. The tall unicorn claimed that it was possible for the Umbrum to live peacefully with ponies and offered to find a way together for them to coexist. The female Umbrum agreed to such a proposal, but the tall unicorn was smart and would only let the Umbrum out one at a time to keep any chaos from breaking loose. The original female offered to go first to pave the way for her younglings. The tall unicorn, known to the ponies as Princess Amore, lowered the magical force field that held the prison together. Only too late did Amore realize the female Umbrum could not be trusted, and soon found herself in an epic battle with the female Umbrum. The battle left both parties weak, and in a desperate attempt, the female Umbrum turned her body into its most basic essence to save energy, and fused her essence with Amore. The female Umbrum was able to control Amore and overpower the princess's mind, taking control of the unicorn's body like a puppet. The female Umbrum made a shelter with her magic to allow her host body to heal from the wounds of the battle, all the while having to mentally fight off Princess Amore from within. Days passed, and slowly the female Umbrum pushed Amore's mind into submission. Not long after her victory did the female Umbrum watch from a distance as a hunting party of armor-clad ponies searched for their missing Princess Amore. To the female's surprise, she saw her own son Sombra leading the group, clad in pony armor. The female remained silent and hidden, letting the group of ponies pass her by, all the while looking through Amore's memories. Not only had Sombra been raised to believe he was a pony, but he was trained in the Royal Guard and rose to the level of captain, a captain of the Royal Guardsmen, whose job it is to protect ponies. Ponies! Even worse, the female Umbrum found memories of her own husband, having also taken a pony form and made friends with the ponies. It was he who convinced Amore that Umbrum might be worthy of change. So Howling didn't exactly fail the Umbrum, but he grew to favor the ponies more. This boiled the blood of the female Umbrum, to think her own husband had turned his back on his own kind, his own children, on her. She would get her revenge one day, but it would be many moons before she could attempt such a feat. In a time since stealing Princess Amore's body, the female Umbrum had taken up the name Mourning Cloak, having cloaked the beloved princess's body from her kind, forcing ponies to fear the worst. Sometimes fate lends a helping hoof. Mourning Cloak was approached out of the blue by Sombra. He had been on a hunting party, the ponies still looking for their missing princess, refusing to give up hope. Mourning didn't reveal herself to her son, but instead spoke through a red crystal she had made, telling him of who and what he really was, as well as telling him it was his destiny to release his kin. But Sombra didn't take the news as Mourning had hoped and ran off upset and confused. Mourning knew if she wanted to free her kind and rule over the world once more, she needed to turn more wheels herself. But she didn't have the strength to do much in her current form. She traveled quickly around the Arctic tundra, following the scent of her son's fear until she came to a pony village. No, an empire made of crystal. Mourning didn't delay her quest and pressed forward to find her son. Fate had helped her again as she caught him writing a letter to some pony, his heart filled with fear and worry. Mourning seized an opportunity to feed, and she cast her spell to feed on the delicious fear of her own son. The letter he had been writing dropped from his hooves. Mourning Cloak was able to view Sombra's worst fear for herself, as she locked him in his darkest nightmares, his heart's worst fears. In the dark dream, Mourning witnessed some pony, tall and proud, with a flowing mane of cool colors, a long horn, and breathtaking wings. An alicorn princess! She seemed to be some pony Sombra cared about. No, loved. Sombra actually fell in love with a pony. Mourning Cloak couldn't believe it. This wasn't some delusion. Otherwise, it wouldn't hit him this hard. She reciprocated his feelings. And something else Mourning Cloak saw. Some pony else. A stallion. Yes, but Sombra knew him. He was Sombra's son! Sombra had a child with a pony. A pony! A pony princess! The thought of such a monster being born of her own kind repulsed Morning Cloak. She would deal with that abomination later. But for now, she had filled Sombra's heart with doubt and planted a seed of rage. All she had to do now was wait. The pain of betrayal in Sombra's heart grew, turning him into a dark king. A shadow king. He cast the ponies of the Crystal Empire in chains and forced them to mine where the Umbrum prison was, which happened to have been directly under the Crystal Castle. Everything was falling into place. As soon as the Umbrum were free, Morning Cloak would take her place as the rightful ruler of her kind, make Howling pay for his betrayal, and then lead her kind to conquer this new world. Unfortunately, fate had a different direction in mind. Morning Cloak watched from a short distance away as Sombra fought off and defeated some yellow-colored unicorn pony, skillfully using dark magic. But rather than deliver a final blow, Sombra oddly cast a spell to seal the yellow pony in stone, and sent the stone hurtling into the sky, far beyond the stars. Why he did that, Morning Cloak didn't know or care. A small army of armor-clad ponies gathered at the border of the Crystal Empire, led by two taller ponies, who not only had horns, but wings as well. Alicorns. Morning Cloak could tell these two ponies would be a problem and fled, leaving her son to face them himself. Once at the border of the Crystal Empire, opposite the side with the army of ponies, Morning Cloak sat and watched the events unfold. Sombra was forced back into his shadowy form and sealed away beneath the ice and snow. This Morning Cloak could deal with at her leisure. She could simply release him when she had the strength. She just needed a few days of rest. She wasn't concerned for Sombra being locked away for that long. But Sombra's backup plan kicked in. He had cast a spell that would seal away the Crystal Empire should anything happen to him. Morning Cloak watched as the Empire and her only hope of conquest vanished. She let out a horrid scream that became muffled by the raging snowstorm. She would have to wait 1,000 years before Sombra would be free once more. And so she did. But she made great use of her time and Amore's body. As Morning fed from the fear of her victims, traveling all around Equestria, her power grew, but it was never enough for the ancient Umbrum. She always craved more and more power. The fear she drained managed to keep Amore's body young and fit, but Amore's mind went dormant, waiting for the day when her knight in shining armor would free her.
Your fear, it's